parents and carers of Year 3 children. This is a short video to help you support reading at home, to give you ideas of how you can help your child at home with their reading, and to let you know how we teach reading at St. Michael's. Reading at St. Michael's. We teach reading through a variety of ways. We use our Power of Reading novel. We do whole class guided reading sessions, drawing on text from a variety of sources. We will use Literacy Shed, our Power of Reading novel, as well as other reading websites. Children will get the chance to read with teachers and teaching assistants. We do cross-curricular reading as well. We do not just read in our English lessons, we will read in our history lessons, our geography lessons, French lessons, maths lessons. Reading really comes across in all areas of the curriculum, as well as we use Accelerated Reader, where children can test their comprehension to see they have understood what they have read. We're going to go through the different content domains. So these are the skills that your children will acquire over their time in Key Stage 2. 2A, they need to be able to give and explain the meanings of words in context. 2B, retrieve and record information, identify key details from fiction and non-fiction texts. 2C, summarise main ideas for more than one paragraph. 2D, make inferences from the text. Explain and justify inferences with evidence from the text. 2E, predict what might happen from details stated and implied. 2F, identify, explain how information, narrative content is related and contributes to meaning as a whole. 2G, identify, explain how meaning is enhanced through choice of words and phrases. And 2H, make comparisons within the text. The way that we teach all of those different domains is through VIPERS. V for vocabulary, I for inference, P for predict, E for explain, R for retrieve, and S for summarize. This chart here shows that the vocabulary will cover content domain 2A. Inference will cover content domain 2D, and so on. We use these skills in our guided reading lessons to help the children achieve the different parts of learning. I'm going to go through the different domains, give some top tips, and give examples of questions that you can use at home to help your child achieve these domains, as well as give you an example of a text and questions that they might come across so that you can see the wording that is used as well. The first domain, give and explain the meaning of words in context. A top tip here is to have a dictionary and thesaurus to hand. That way, when your child comes across a word that they're unsure of, they can use the dictionary to look up the meaning of it, as well as they can find synonyms, other words for it. They can keep a vocabulary log and try to use the vocabulary daily. Some example questions that you might see. What do the words and suggest about the character, mood, and setting? So they will be given a word from the text and they have to make suggestions. Which word tells you that? Which keywords tell you about the character? Find one word in the text which means, so that is looking at synonyms. Find and highlight the word that is closest in meaning to. Find a word or phrase which shows or suggests. This is an example text that a Year 3 pupil might see. We will show them a variety of texts, non-fiction as well as fiction. Here we have an information text, and our vocabulary focus is going to be 2 questions. We've got find a word or phrase that is a synonym for path. So they also have to note the word synonym means the same, and they have to know other words for path. Another question might be which word or phrase, so phrase being a group of words, tells you the United States has a lot more tornadoes than anywhere else. They would have to use their reading skills to look for words that mean path, as well as something that means something that is greater than. Content 2B, retrieve and record information, identify key details from fiction and non-fiction. Some top tips here. After your child has read a chapter, ask them to summarize it in 3 main points. After reading, ask your child to make a true or false quiz based on what they have just read. Some example questions for retrieval. How would you describe this story? What genre is it? How did you know? How did? How often? Who? What happened to? What does? How? What can you learn from? Give an example of whose story is this which perspective is the story told from? These are going to be your 5 W's, your who, what, where, when, why questions, and they are straightforward questions. Here, a retrieval question. When were rabbits introduced into Australia? So they would have to know that when you're asking a when question, you're going to be looking for a time reference. So it may be a time, it may be a date, might be a year that they are looking for. 2C, summarize main ideas for more than one paragraph. To summarize, it is in your own words, tell what has happened in the story. So example questions, can you number these events 1 to 5 in the order that they happened? What happened after? What was the first thing that happened in the story? Can you summarize a sentence in a sentence, the opening, middle, and end of a story? In what order do the chapter headings come in the story? Here is an example text where they are asking you to number the following events from 1 to 5 to show the order that they appear in the text. The way we would teach children to do this is to read the sentence, pirates are still around today, to find a sentence within the text that means that, highlight it, do that for all of the questions, and then they can see which sentence comes first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. 2D, making inferences from the text, explain and justify inferences with evidence from the text. So an inference is reading between the lines, using the clues in the text to help us work out the answer without it being supplied for us. Some example questions, find and copy a group of words which show that. How do these words make the reader feel? How do the descriptions of show that they are? So they have to justify their answer as well. How can you tell that? What impression? What voice might the character use? What was somebody thinking when this happened? Who is telling the story? These types of questions, they've got to use the clues within the story. Here we have another text as well that a Year 3 child might see. And our inference questions, why was it called the Golden Age for comics? Why do you think Stan Lee dared himself to create an unlikable character? They have to be able to use evidence from the text to support their answers. So they have to look within the text, find why it was called the Golden Age, and give a reason as to why they think it was that. 2E, predict what might happen from details stated and implied. So predicting is making an educated guess as to what might happen in the story. A top tip, before reading a book, ask your child what they think the book will be about and ask them why they think it might be that. Have them look at the front cover, look at the characters, look at the background. What do they think the book might be about? If they are reading chapter books, at the end of a chapter, ask them, what do you think will happen next? Why do you think that might happen? They've got to use what they've just read, showing their understanding of the events to be able to predict the next part. Some example questions. From the front cover, what do you think this text is going to be about? What is happening now? What is happening before this? What will happen after? What does this paragraph suggest will happen next? What makes you think this? Do you think the choice of setting will influence how the plot develops? Do you think will happen? Yes or no, or maybe. Explain your answer using evidence from the text. Again, we've got a text here. So they would read through the text and then look at the questions. Based on what you have read, do you think the village will continue to look for the missing flower? They cannot just simply say, yes, I think they will, or no, I don't think they will. The important part is explaining the answer, and they need to use evidence from the text. What makes them think that they will continue to look for the flower? What makes them think they will not continue to look for the flower? Another type of question, do you think that the baker will steal more sacks of flour in the future? Tick 1, explain your answer fully. So again, they cannot just get the mark for ticking the answer. They must explain. So yes, they may tick yes and say, I think that the baker will steal more sacks of flour because in the text it says, and they would use supporting evidence from the text. The last 3 domains fit together for explain. So 2F, identify, explain how information, narrative content is related and contributes to a meaning as a whole. 2G, identify, explain how meaning is enhanced through choice of words and phrases. And 2H, make comparisons within texts. These are the trickier ones to achieve, but it is coming through the reading, asking them to explain words, comparing what happened at the beginning of the chapter, what happened at the end, what happened at the beginning of the story compared to what happened at the end. Here, some example questions might be, why is the text arranged this way? So in an information text, why does it have subheadings? How does that help the reader? What structure has the author used? What is the purpose of this text? Is it to inform? Is it to relay a set of instructions? Is it to give a recipe? Is the use of something effective? Is the use of subheadings? Does that help us to understand where certain sections of the text are? The mood of the character changes throughout the text. Find a copy and phrase which shows this. So you are comparing from the one point in the story to another. What is the author's point of view? What effect does the dialogue have on an audience? Does that help us to understand how the characters might be feeling? How does the author engage the reader here? Which words or phrases did the author use effectively, it might be, and which section was the most interesting, which was the most exciting part? All of those, they have to explain their answers. So again, we've got our tornadoes text. So our E question from our Vipers, which piece of information do you find the easiest to access on the text? Why do you think this? So they would have to look and decide. And these answers, there is no right or wrong answer, but they have to explain why to be able to get the marks. So they might, for example, find that this part of the text is the easiest. So they might say, I find the graph the easiest part to access on the text because it shows me clearly the number of tornadoes in each state in the United States. So they've said which part is easiest to access, and they've stated why as well. Another type of question might be, do you think Peter Rabbit is a hero? Give 2 reasons for your answer. So instead of saying, yes, Peter Rabbit was a hero, they could give a number of different answers. He was a hero because he was brave to go into Mr. McGregor's garden. He was clever to escape. He wanted to show Mr. McGregor that the rabbits wouldn't be beaten. He never gave up. They also might say, no, he wasn't a hero because he trespassed on someone's property. He stole someone else's food, making him a thief. So again, you are comparing, and there are justifications for each answer. Another one we've got here is find a word phrase that gives the impression of something chaotic in the city. So again, it includes the vocabulary. They have to know what the word chaotic means. They would then come back to the text and they would look to see, I know chaotic means busy. I know it means a little bit crazy. Everybody's doing something. So they would have to find words that mean the same, and they would come across strange or frenzy. Another text here, another question might be, what is changed between the beginning and the end of the passage? So they would have to read the passage, think about what is happening at the beginning, what is happening in the end. And as they read through, they would notice that Alice has moved from the old room into the looking glass house, or that she knows what is in the looking glass house now. So she's made comparisons from the beginning to the end of the text. Those are the content domains. When we come across unknown words, which children will come across as they read, here are some tips to help you. You can look for blending the phonemes, so blending the sounds together. Look for clues in the picture. Split the word into smaller words or into syllables. Spot if it looks similar to other words that are known, so it might be a rhyming word, so the end sound might be the same. You can read the rest of the sentence to see if you can work out what the word might be based on the context of the whole sentence. Also referring to the complex speed sounds chart, so knowing that the same sound can be made in a variety of ways. So for example, the A sound can be made by writing AY. It can be a split digraph, A with another letter in between and then an E, or AI as in snail. So it's knowing the phonemes as well that they can have other sounds. This complex speed chart sound is listed below in the documents as well to refer to. Other ways that you can help at home: make reading an everyday occurrence. Have reading material available, whether it's magazines, comic strips, newspapers, books that you enjoyed as a child, as well as Kindles, Fire tablets. They have all got access to the internet, so you can find a variety of reading resources on the internet. Let your child see you reading. They need to know that reading is something adults do as well, whether it's a newspaper, a magazine, recipes, any time that you're reading. Let your child see that it is a skill that adults need to keep up as well. Talk about the book your child has brought home. Respect their choices. If they are interested in a certain theme, let them read those types of books and then slowly introduce a different genre. Make use of online resources. Visit the library. Let your child do the reading. When you are cooking a new meal, let them read you the recipe. If you're out on a walk, ask them to read you the street names. Just little bits of reading here and there will help them as well. And finally, just a few reminders. It is an expectation that children in Year 3 read every night for 20 minutes, evidenced by an adult signature, which goes in their learning journal. It is important you listen to your child so they can learn to read with expression, note the punctuation, and you are able to assist with reading of unknown words. Children earn house points on a daily basis for their home reading, with additional points for completing a whole week. We have an additional challenge called the Busters Book Club. This is an additional challenge where classes compete to have the most extra minutes. So anytime they read over 20 minutes, those minutes will count towards Busters Book Club. The winning class is awarded at the end of the week during our celebration assembly. The data for Busters Book Club is taken on a Thursday, so if you ensure your child has completed this challenge by that day, in the front of their learning journal, there is a bookmark where you can sign the date that they read for more than 20 minutes, how long they read for, and a signature, and that can be used for it. Hope this video has given you some ideas on how you can support your child at home with reading. Thank you.